right. Are you ready to go back to the children of the atom, as they were once called in the comics, the X-Men universe? Are you ready to go back to X-Men? All right, like I said, I'm gonna bring them out, have a brief conversation with them, then I'll turn it over to you and your questions, and we'll go for about 35 minutes, some fun stuff, and we're just gonna have some fun for a bit. So that being said, please welcome our first guest. He is an actor, screenwriter, director, and producer whose body of work across several fandoms include Lupin III, The Castle of Cagliostro, Spider-Man the Animated Series as the voice of Captain America, Watchmen, The Flash, and of course Metal Gear Solid franchise, which we will talk about tomorrow. So any questions on that, definitely save that for tomorrow. Today he joins us as the screenwriter of X-Men and X2 X-Men United. Please welcome David Hayter! And next, please welcome, he is an actor whose roles include The Rookie, Animorphs, and The Boys. Today, he joins us to discuss the role of Bobby Drake, a.k.a. Iceman. Please welcome Shawn Ashmore. And finally, she's an actress whose credits include Star Trek: The Next Generation, GoldenEye, Hemlock Grove, Nip Tuck, and the Taken film franchise. Today, she's joining us to discuss the role of Jean Grey, aka Phoenix. Please welcome Famke Janssen! Friends, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Jacksonville. Hope you all have been enjoying your stay so far.
Excellent time. Thank you for having us. This is a lovely town. It's my first time. So thank you for being so welcome.
Good food. Yes, absolutely. What I would love to do is sort of create an original timeline, and that way we can get everybody's sort of input on it. So let's sort of go to the beginning of how this gestated, and where you, as the screenwriter, right? Usually the script comes first, but sometimes not. But David starts out. How did you get involved with this?
Oh God. It's a long, complicated. The short answer is, this is the craziest Hollywood story that ever was. I was answering the phones on the movie X-Men, and I produced a little movie with the director, and he was complaining that nobody knew anything about the X-Men and the script was going to ruin his career. So I said, well, I know about the X-Men. I read all the comics and I know the characters, and I suggested a scene to him and he told me to go write it, and I was like, oh, okay. I figured he was kidding because that's not legal. And then I wrote it, and then a few months later the studio found out, and they were forced to make a deal with me against their will. They paid me $35,000. I'm the lowest paid screenwriter of an $80 million film in history. And then I did 13 months on the film, 150 drafts or so, and got sole credit, and ended up, it made me the most successful first-time screenwriter in film history.
Shawn, how did Bobby Drake come to be for you?
Well, I was an actor living in Toronto, which is where it filmed, so I first heard about the film coming there, and Bryan Singer, the director, because I was a huge fan of The Usual Suspects. So between those two things, I grew up reading the comic books, I watched the cartoon after school every day, so I was a huge comic book fan anyway, so I was really well versed in the world and in the characters, and just a fan of comic books and genre stuff in general. And I went to what, I don't know if they still call it, but like a cattle call for actors in, there's literally 500 actors for reading for several parts, and I was telling David the other day, because I can't remember if I actually...
Yeah, I didn't know this.
Initially, so when I auditioned several times, I went in for like those, when there's like, 500 people there, and it got whittled down and whittled down. I went in maybe 3 times for that, and then I had a final audition with Lauren Schuler Donner, who is one of the producers, Tom DeSanto, one of the other producers, and Bryan Singer. And I didn't say this yesterday, but the first time I went in to read for them, I was super nervous, I was ready to go, and nobody showed up. There was like a production meeting that went long, and so I showed up for the audition, and I was sitting there for like an hour, and they're like, hey, you have to come back tomorrow because nobody can make it. And I was like, I'm not getting this part.
I was gonna say, it's either really awesome or really terrible.
Yeah, well, I figured it's just a they were just blowing me off. But I came back the next day and had a great audition, and I booked the part. And the scene that I read was with Anna Paquin's character with Rogue on the bench, where the character is Mystique telling her to leave. So that scene was always there. But what I was telling David was, at some point, and again, this was a long time ago, 25 years ago, something like that. I think I shot that scene first, the bench scene first, and then I came back to work a few weeks later, and somebody from the production handed me new pages, and my character name had changed, and it was now Bobby. And I was like, oh, what did I do? I thought maybe that they didn't like the scene and they were like minimizing my role. And somebody was like, no, it was great. We've just kind of like morphed your character into something different. Obviously, it became Bobby Drake. But I think maybe the character's name was John before, which was Pyro. So I think at one point when I first got hired, I might have been Pyro, and then it turned into Iceman. But I'm not 100% sure, because I was like, I've been wondering this for a long time, and I was like, well, David must have known, but you were like, no, you weren't aware of that.
I didn't, yeah, I wasn't involved. I mean, I dealt with casting in LA and all the main parts, and I was there to upset Lauren Troubadour, apparently, but no, Bobby, you just came out of nowhere, and I was like, oh, where'd this guy come from?
I just showed up, and it was a really good time.
And we are glad for that. Thank you.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, Famke, Jean Grey is such a principal part of the X-Men mythology, and you carried it so well.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. Full disclosure, I had never heard of the X-Men. I knew nothing about comic books. I grew up in Amsterdam. You know what I mean? I'm Dutch. I know people read comic books there, but it just wasn't really part of my upbringing. So I had come out in a Bond movie called GoldenEye. And then, after that, because I felt like such a, cliche in the making of being a model, turned Bond girl, turned actress, turned whatever, I thought, I'm gonna focus now on doing character parts. And so I kind of spun off in a different direction and did whatever I could to work with, Woody Allen and Robert Altman and like whatever movies. And at the time of these auditions, when the auditions started popping up, I was filming a romantic comedy with Jon Favreau called Love and Sex that probably no one's ever heard of, but it was so much fun. And I was the lead in it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing, I'm working every day. And they kept saying they want to see you for Jean Grey from the X-Men. And I was like, what is the X-Men? I've never even heard of this. And then finally, I went to a comic book store in a basement in New York somewhere.
Sounds about right.
Yeah! And then I thought, oh, crikey, this is big. People know about this stuff. And so then I auditioned, and I don't know, Christian, who was the casting director at the time at Fox, tell me, how many auditions did I do? I don't remember. 4? Wow. Oh my God. Well, I got the part. So.
And just a quick sidebar.
Yeah.
That was a really great job you did on your episode of Star Trek.
Thank you.
That character being this amorous empath as it is, and just having all those character changes throughout the thing. I mean, it was a great job, and that's why that episode is still so well regarded.
No, thank you. I mean, I can't tell you how tough it was for me to shoot that, because I was fresh off the boat from the Netherlands, basically. My English wasn't very good, and all of a sudden I'm playing this weird empath with dialogue, and they would keep giving me script changes. And I was go like, how does this work? How do I do this? And how can I memorize these lines in a different language? And so it was, it felt like, I'm glad that it lasted. And then it's great that I've worked with Patrick Stewart twice, obviously. Not twice.
Not your first time like that, whatever. Mr. Stewart, yes.
Yeah.
Sir Patrick Stewart. So.
And he gave me the best acting advice. He said, I don't know what I was doing. He said, just pick one eye, because my eyes kept shifting. Okay, good. I'll take that note.
Absolutely do. I'm sure you've been asked this often. This question usually comes up. People say, "Did you always know X-Men was going to be successful when you were making it?" What I always transpose that into, when did you realize that it was exceeding expectations? When did you realize after the movie was released, like, oh wow, I was hoping this would be a thing, but this is a thing.
Well, remember when we were filming it, Brian came from The Usual Suspects and other independent films, so he wasn't known as a major, huge, studio blockbuster director. So, and while we were on set, to me it felt like we were on we were on a very large budget independent movie kind of vibe. So for me, it wasn't until it came out, I think, that I realized the magnitude of it. You guys?
I think the weekend that it came out, I was walking around downtown Toronto and I had like 5 people stop me. And I'd been acting since I was a kid, and I'd been in stuff like, Disney stuff and Nickelodeon stuff at that point. But yeah, in one kind of walk up Yonge Street in Toronto, about 5 people stopped me. And again, I was only on set like maybe for 2 weeks. It wasn't a huge amount of time, but so the second that came out and I was walking down the street, people were like, Iceman, Bobby, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a successful film.
And how many times did your brother get that?
Well, so I have an identical twin brother who's also an actor. That was painful for him. He'd be like, no, that's not me, that's my twin brother. And they'd be like, that must suck. And then they'd walk off.
Oh, sure, a twin brother. Just sign the autograph.
Well, that's the other thing too.
I would have lied if I were him.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think at a certain point he started to. And again, Aaron's an actor too, so I gauge when people come up to me, if they're like, hey, I really liked you in Smallville or whatever. Often I'm like, oh no, that's actually my brother. But it sometimes happens where they're like, well, fuck you if you want to sign an autograph. And I'm like, no, really, I have a twin brother. So I can gauge pretty quickly if they're gonna be graceful or not. So sometimes I'm just like, thank you very much, and they'll sign it. So I learned that lesson pretty quickly.
What's been the best memory that each of you have taken from being a part of this?
I bought a house.
That's a great memory.
For $35,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know,
I got
there's so
residuals.
many. I mean, it lasted so many years over, a span of, I was in 5 of them if you include the Wolverine. And thank you. And it was just, every single time was a reunion, and people had babies, and then they had new husbands and wives, and it was like, so much, it was over such a long period of time. There were too many memories to remember.
I think the work was always fun, like shooting those, especially as the films went on, the sort of attention, and so the budgets, it was like a bigger deal, and it was kind of more exciting. I felt like every time we came back. But the thing that I remember, similar to what you said, it's like we got to like do stuff together. So to me, the promotional stuff was so fun.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, we're doing a huge premiere in London. We're going to Cannes. We're like, and so now you're hanging out and traveling and going to these amazing places with these people that you worked with for 15 years.
Yeah.
And that was always fun to me. Like making the movies was rad, but then with the excitement and the build up and like, oh, we're traveling and we're all hanging out and like, oh, we're going to have a beautiful dinner somewhere. Like it was fun and it was easy. And often, if you've worked on a film and you're promoting something, it's like you don't really know those people that well. You maybe work together for a couple months, but the fact that we've all known each other for like 15 years or whatever was pretty special.
And it was at a time when they still spend money on travel. They don't do that anymore. So it was very luxurious and great.
We'll see you at Cannes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Grab a flight. I just want to say my favorite part was watching when Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart got together on the film in the beginning. They'd worked together in a play 25 years earlier, and they were not friends, and they were like 2 lions sort of circling each other and like, eyeing each other. I remember the first scene they shot, and there was just like, it was just this tension between them, and they just became best friends. And then I was sitting on the plastic prison set with them, and they were like, well, I'm going to do this, and in this scene I'm going to give you one of these, and it was a delight to watch that happen. So it was nice to have a front row seat to that.
Well, friends, thank you very much. I'm going to jump out in the audience and take some of their questions, but before I do that, on behalf of myself and all of them, everybody is here, I just want to thank you all. I thank you for your talents and your professionalism and the performances and the writing you did to this film series. This really, because people tend to forget in hindsight, this was kind of before the MCU as we understand now. This was a left field experiment, cape movies that didn't quite work, and collectively it's just knocked out of the park. And you collectively, you moved the needle, and thank you.
I just want to say one other thing in terms of when did we know it was going to work? We kept, we keep this from the actors, like everything that's going on behind the scenes. The studio had no belief in this. They thought it was going to be a disaster, and they were panicked about everything. We were always going to get shut down. It was just a you know, I mean, they had no faith that this was going to work. And then it was I was in Toronto the first time I saw it. And then when Wolverine went through that windshield, they went bananas. And I was like, oh, maybe I could buy a house.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I see. You know, I'll do this Donahue style. I'll come around and we'll try to get as many as we can in. Just remember the rules and all that fun stuff. Okay, hey, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Tex, and my question for you guys is, if you had a hypothetical pitch for Disney Plus for a TV show, what X-Men storylines would you like to explore?
Real quick off the top of my head, maybe an Iceman, Jean Grey.
Love story.
David, what do you think? Yeah.
I think Iceman and Jean Grey leave the mansion together and go on desert adventures.
Sure.
He doesn't melt.
Yeah.
No.
There you go. That'll work. All right, we'll pitch. All right, we'll get somebody to write that up. Okay, I'm gonna come around. So I'll do here, then we'll get to you. Okay, young man over here. Excuse me. Hey, what's your name?
Elijah.
Elijah. What you got?
I was just going to ask if there was going to be another X-Men movie, would there be any changes to the X-Men team?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, they're gonna reimagine the X-Men movies, and you know there may be fan service where you know some of the original cast comes by. I wouldn't be surprised if that occurred. But I know that Marvel's plan is to try to do a new generation of X-Men. So I would imagine it'll be relatively different from what we did in the first go-rounds.
Would it be fair to say if the deal was equitable, you would all come back to the roles?
I think we need to ask Elijah who he wants to come back for.
Yeah, who do you want to see, Elijah?
Nightcrawler first.
Yes.
Elijah, thank you. Good one. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, you're fired.
Wait.
I take that question back.
All right. Hey, what's your name, boss?
Chris? So, based off of your whatever knowledge of the comics that you have, is there a character that you wish could have been in the live-action movies but didn't make it? I mean, based on what you know, or
Well, we were talking about this the other day. I was excited to see Gambit pop up, and yeah. I also was happy that Gambit wasn't in the first round because Bobby and Rogue wouldn't have had the relationship. So I grew up with it, like, again, I watched the cartoon, so I was like, well, that's an interesting change, but it served me, so I was happy about that. But I did like, I liked seeing Gambit.
I know nothing.
Yeah, so Iceman and I spoke about Gambit yesterday, and people are always asking me about, is Gambit going to be in the movies and all that stuff. The reason he's not is because I hate Gambit. Well, I don't hate him. I know he's a big fan favorite, but I'm like, his power's the same as Cyclops essentially, and the accent is not gonna play. So I kept killing it. I'm like, Brian, you can't. Gambit's gonna die. Like that's terrible. So people are like, why wasn't Gambit in the movies? I'm like, I don't know.
Was there a character you wanted to see in live action never made it?
maybe we'd like to see a little more of some of the characters that were like Nightcrawler, and I would love to see more of Iceman. He's my favorite.
Right. You're my favorite.
On behalf of all women, I would just like to add that I think we should add some more women to this. No?
Jubilee, Boom Boom, the New Mutants, Karma, Cyclops. There's a whole. The mythology is so rich, and yeah, I think in a perfect world we would have seen more exploration of that. No, absolutely. All right, I think over here. Hello. Hi, what's your name?
My name is Tina. All right. I don't want to
Hi,
get nobody in trouble. Break no NDAs. But was there any offers for either one of you two to be in Deadpool and Wolverine?
Not me.
Well, I think I appear at the end of Deadpool. don't I?
The new one, the new
No.
one.
The new one. No.
No offers?
Well, I think you do because there's behind the scenes from the first.
Yes,
Right,
that's what I mean.
right.
But yeah.
Okay, got it. Oh, and you and Storm, favorite characters. For sure.
Thank you.
Hey, what's your name?
My name is Joseph, and I just want to say I hope the two of you come back within the run within the X-Men franchise, because it would not be the same without the two of you being with Hugh Jackman, Sir Patrick Stewart, and everybody else. But I just want to ask, what has been y'all's favorite part about just being in such an iconic franchise?
I think it's being in such an iconic franchise.
Yeah. It sounds simple, right? But just
that simple, yeah.
the fact that we're still sitting in a room
Talking.
full of crowd of people
Yeah.
talking about something that was legitimately fun to make, and again, characters that I got to grow up playing, like that was very special to me, and it was a huge kind of break in my career. Like that's just special.
Yeah, and I think at the time, the types of movies that we'd seen in that realm were larger than life. The characters weren't grounded in reality, and that was Bryan Singer's main goal from the beginning. He wanted real people with real issues, mutants just like anyone else who were struggling in life with not, belonging, not fitting in. And I think that's ultimately why these movies really hit with an audience, and that's what all the comic books, when I started reading them, that's what they're all about. That's the beauty of them. That's why all of you are probably sitting here, because don't we all feel like we don't quite belong, we're not really, you know what I mean? So, and that's what, he set it in a reality that had never been done before in that type of movie. So I think that's what I'm super proud of and excited about, that we changed that landscape.
Yeah, Brian, I don't think has read a comic book to this day. He watched the cartoons, and he had me and a few others on set that knew X-Men, but he was like, I don't want to make a comic book movie. We just want to make a real movie. And so, we would make sure it felt like X-Men, but he made sure that it was real and that it felt like a real world thing. And that was a game changer. It was, hadn't really been seen like that before.
You do a pretty good Brian impression, by the way.
How you doing, Brian? I'm suffering.
Hey, what's your name?
I'm Laura. So I'm wondering if you guys could have a superpower, what superpower would you want?
This one's easy for me. I would want to have Nightcrawler's ability, teleportation. I love Nightcrawler. That's one of my favorite X-Men, and I hate flying, so just like bamf home.
I may as well stick with Jean Grey and her telepathy. I've just been listening to a podcast about, it's called The Telepathy Tapes, and it's all about telepathic communication and with certain groups of people, and it's just mind-blowing, and animals. And so, yeah, I want to explore that.
Well, I'd like the power to greenlight my own movies. That's pretty much it.
And buy more houses.
Everything else falls in.
I want the power to sing like Freddie Mercury.
Oh, yeah. I'll take that too.
Hey, what's your name?
Jeremy. Mr. Hayter, the first time you saw Channing Tatum on screen playing Gambit, how did you feel, and do you feel he was well accepted by the fans?
Yeah, look, he was amazing, and what I loved about it was, in the world of Deadpool and Wolverine, it works, he's got that goofy accent, it's just ridiculous, right? But in the world of the X-Men that we were making, it didn't fit, so no, it worked out great, and I'm so glad he did it, and it kicked ass, but again, that's a different tone.
Hi, what's your name?
Crystal. So, when you were working with Ian McKellen, what was the most profound thing he's ever said, or what was your favorite moment with him?
I just love that they loved the party.
Yes. Yeah, he loved the party.
He was, older than any of us, and he would be out all night, just having fun. I loved it.
The other thing that was cool too was like he would host like brunches. Like
I
he
know.
was kind of the social
butterfly.
gathering. Like so it's like, and that's how I felt, especially on X2. we were in Vancouver, and it's like Ian would have people over for brunch and champagne, and then it would be like someone would start playing a poker game, and then like we'd be there all morning, all afternoon, just hanging out. And he was just down to have people around. Like he seemed like a very, very fun social guy. So that was cool.
Thank you. Good one. All right. And sorry. Hey, what's your name?
Hey, my name's Tyler. I was just wondering, what was it like working with Hugh Jackman when he was Wolverine in those scenes, and what was like the mindset when you were writing a script with Wolverine? Like, okay, hey, this is where I want to start him off, and from there.
Well, I would like to just start that I auditioned, basically, Hugh Jackman, because I was cast before he was cast. We were already filming. We had a little trouble with the casting of Wolverine at that point, and that's when they were bringing in Hugh Jackman on set while we were filming.
The Senate scene, yeah.
The Senate scene, and I auditioned him, so I feel that I should be getting his salary on the Senate scene. Right?
Really quick, I was trying to think of like the most impactful moment. Actually shooting it, like being there as an X-Men fan, like watching stuff happen. One of the times was when James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart were together in Days of Future Past. Like I remember watching that. But the first moment that literally gave me chills when I was acting in the scene was in X2 during the mansion raid. Bobby and Logan are in the kitchen having a conversation about Rogue and Jean Grey. And Stryker's soldiers come in, and there's a moment where Wolverine like pushes one of the soldiers through his chest into the fridge, and Hugh went like full Wolverine berserk. And as we were shooting the take, I literally got chills because I was like, "Holy shit!" I could imagine.
That's within character.
Yes, it was. Thank you. Yeah. But every time I watch that scene, I still have that feeling, like that chill. So I mean, Hugh obviously is like probably one of the most kind, generous actors I've ever worked with, but when he turns it on and he goes full Wolverine, it's pretty exciting. And I got like that firsthand, like a front row seat of seeing that, and I still remember it to this day. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah, and I see Wolverine. I did read the comics, so Wolverine was a real person to me and a personal mentor. And so we had a lot of trouble casting him, and then he came in, and I was there that day at the Toronto City Hall when we were, or at Massey Hall, shooting the Senate scene, and there was a moment, and we were already shooting the movie, and we were almost out of scenes without Wolverine in it, and so yeah, he did these amazing scenes with Famke, and then he did this one scene with Anna Paquin, the truck scene. And there was just a moment where I think she's asking him, does it hurt when they come out? And he's like, every time. And then he turned and he looked into camera, and he just looked like young Clint Eastwood. And me and Brian and Ralph Winter all looked at each other and were like, I think that's it. We all got chills. And he came into it. And he was so, Wolverine needs to be vicious, but he also needs to be human. And Hugh is incredibly human. He's the nicest man. And so it was an incredible balance of what we needed.
Cool. Come on.
That's not applause.
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Tyson. So my question is, if y'all could power swap within the MCU or just the Marvel Universe, what powers would you pick?
Of any MCU character?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so big.
Pyro.
Yes, Pyro. Done. Just mix it up. Just want to do something different. Yeah, sure.
I'm definitely not playing anyone blue. That's all I need. I'm good. I don't need 6-hour, prosthetic makeup on my body and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna be Wolverine.
I was gonna take Wolverine. I like the not getting injured and not really aging, and I would like Wolverine, but
Taken.
Famke took it. You guys come over. I'll go. I'll steal Bobby's Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
If you could pick a power set, what would you pick?
See, that's a tough one.
Yeah, now you know what we feel.
Shoot. I don't know, honestly.
Think of something, let me know. All right, good question though. Thank you. All right.
Toad. Nobody ever says toad.
Hey, what's your name?
Or maybe one.
I'm Jackson. So both of you in acting had powers that were very kind of hand wave and they finish it up in post. Was there any point in that process where you're like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like?
I think I figured it out the second time around because I got to see it on screen, and then you realize. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna lie and say I didn't stand in front of a mirror and figure out like, well, how am I gonna shoot ice out of my hands? I definitely did that. Felt silly every single time. But I think once you see it on screen with the music, with the cut, with the effects, it's like, oh yeah, this is gonna look fine. This is gonna look really cool, actually. So yeah, I think I figured it out on the second one because I had the confidence to see what it looked like on screen first.
Yeah, you have to really trust your director when you do these scenes in these moments because you're there, green screen, whatever it is, I mean, I had moments where it was almost like like a fishing rod with like a little thing dangling from it, and even though it was going to be CGI, we were old school, doing some rinky-dink shit at that point.
It's true, yeah. The budget was tight. My favorite was watching Ian do it the first time. Ian, is such a masterful actor, but he was not sure what this whole thing was, and he had to come out and he was like, and he would do the thing. But then we had the train station scene, and again, it wasn't CG. We had two cop cars on upside down on cranes, and we dropped them onto other cop cars. And I think once Ian was conducting that, he fell into it pretty good.
But in those moments, I remember just looking around on set going, oh my God, this is insane.
I know.
I grew up in a little town in the Netherlands, and here I am on a set with cop cars dropping and massive sets, and it was unreal.
It was something else.
Hey, what's your name?
Mark. So this is for all three of y'all. Is there any other actor in that time frame and back then that y'all would have wanted on set to be with y'all?
That we wanted to be on set?
Or you would have wanted maybe just if you could cast another character, maybe from the X-Men universe.
Well, there were a lot of interesting people came through for casting. Angela Bassett was originally offered Storm, but she wanted a lot of money and we didn't have it. I had really pushed for Rachel Lee Cook to be Rogue, but weirdly she wanted a lot of money too. And we were like, I don't have that much money. And I don't know, Terrence Stamp came in for Professor Xavier, and that was really cool. He just hung out in the office all day. Wouldn't leave.
Just waiting to be cast.
Yeah.
If I hang around long enough.
And Viggo Mortensen came in for Wolverine at one point. Yeah, I'll tell you that story when we're not in front of a bunch of people.
But I think we did pretty good with who we had.
No. The cast we got we were so fortunate.
If you had added another character, what character would that have been, and who would you have cast if you had a blank check?
Who, me?
Oh, just anybody, yeah.
Well,
besides Gambit, of course.
Well, yeah. I nixed Gambit, no Gambit. We had Beast in the first movie and in the second movie, and both times we couldn't afford him. And so I wrote a whole sequence in the Statue of Liberty where he was going up and swinging through the interior girders and all these amazing things, and they're like, no, we can't afford that. So Beast would always get his leg broken like right before the third act. And he's like, okay, well, good luck, guys. And we're like, and then
hold down the fort.
Yeah, and then finally Brian's like, this is stupid. Like, why do we even have him if we're not going to use him? So Beast was certainly a big creature of contention.
Hey, what's your name?
Howdy, I'm Adam. One of my favorite scenes is, as you referenced lightly too, is right before the mansion gets raided, you chill the bottle for Wolverine. If you guys did have powers, would you be more casual every day with them like that, or would you kind of go crazy with powers?
I would do both. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've walked into a bar or a party and someone's like, hey, can you make my drink cold? It's happened several times today, actually. So yeah, I would definitely use them casually just to shut people up, maybe.
Well, who would want powers?
A rogue.
Yeah, touche, yeah, I give you that. Hey, what's your name?
Sebastian.
And what are you dressed as?
Cyclops.
Oh, yeah. Nice. I kid. What's your question?
So actually it's for Famke. I love Phoenix, it's one of my favorite characters, but my question for you is, in X3, you got to play Phoenix and Jean. Was it, well, my question sort of is like a two-part, so did you have fun being that liberated, like being more villainous in that way, or just going unhinged? And then also, which did you prefer?
I don't particularly have a preference, but what I did like is that, you know, I believe as humans we have all these different facets about our personalities. And that's why you can mostly see that reflected in your friends, in your friendships with people, because, you know, if you put all your friends in one room, they probably all go like, what? You're friends with that? I don't understand. But we all have these different, you know, parts to ourselves. And so I saw it very much as Jean Grey was this sort of conflicted person, you know, someone who had these incredible powers that she didn't, and they were just coming out in spurts, and she didn't know how to control them. And so at the time on 3, I worked closely with the writers and said, I kind of want to take this in a way where it's almost in a schizophrenic type of, you know, it comes out and it's uncontrollable and she doesn't know how to deal with it. So I worked with them through the dialogue to do, you know, make some of these changes, and I'm really happy about that. And I really enjoyed playing the different parts of that, because I think the older I get, the more I realize, like, I'm just a lot of different people. I can't just define myself as this one thing. I just have different parts to me. And that is what Jean Grey Phoenix represents to me. So I'm glad I got to play that.
Oh no, wait, you're Cyclops. You obviously get a red one. Yes. All right, I got time for one more. All right, first thing I saw. Excuse me. Thank you for your service, by the way. Hey, what's your name?
Grayson.
What you got, Grayson?
What is your favorite scene in X1, X3, all 3 of you?
Out of all the movies, favorite scene? No. Whoa. If you could pick just one, or one of your favorites.
I think the scene that, and this goes back to what Famke and David were saying before about making like a really grounded story where, yes, we're in this like kind of big playground of superhero characters, but in X1, the scene where Wolverine talks with Rogue on the train, I felt was it just felt like a beautiful, simple, honest scene that could have been in any drama or whatever, but to me, they were talking about such important things for like a young woman dealing with this, and Wolverine obviously having this past, but they connected in such a beautiful and pure way, and I thought that scene could be in any high-class drama, basically, and I was like, oh, that's a beautifully acted and shot and written scene that was just very touching, and I think it connected all of us that were fans to that movie and to those characters. So I think that was probably my favorite, definitely my favorite scene in the first film, and maybe of all of them. Like, I think there's something about that scene that was really powerful. Yeah, I think that's true. Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. There's so many to choose from. I mean, the ones that personally affected me filming them, and then there's also the ones where I just, you know, if I think about putting a concentration camp scene in a movie of that, do you know what I mean? No one was thinking of doing that.
That wasn't me, by the way. That was Christopher McQuarrie, and it was so brilliant. We were like, okay, this sets the tone for everything. Right. You know, yeah, he's a genius.
Yeah, it's brave. It's a very brave choice to make. So yeah, I mean.
But I did write the train scene.
But David, all you.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
There's so many. I think my favorite, sequence that I wrote was the Nightcrawler attack on the White House. That was pretty cool. Magneto's escape from prison in X2. But the introducing the claws after the cage fight, I got to sit. I was sitting at the bar, and we were like, okay, how do we do this? And I was like, well, what if, he gets up, and I was in the chair, and I was like, the guy comes and grabs him with the knife, and he puts the claws up, and then the shotgun comes in the side of the thing. You think the scene's over, and then when he turns around and he snaps cuts the shotgun in 3 pieces. And I was like, then you get this shot, like the claws here and the claws here. And I made this thing, and then they did it, and I was like, okay, that's cool. So I liked a lot of the action scenes, but again, the cast was so good, and just like the human scenes were amazing. The scenes with you and Hugh were incredible. Scenes with you and Hugh were incredible, and also I'm a huge Cyclops fan, so the relationship between you and James Marsden was just so great, and so yeah, I'm fond of almost all of them.
One of my favorite moments is just when Wolverine's trying to get impress Jean Grey and stuff. It's like, oh, that guy. It's like, without that visor, he would punch through a mountain. Which was a great reminder that even in the comics, we tend to forget just how powerful Cyclops' blasts really are supposed to be. You know, they joke about it's a portal to the punch dimension. That's the joke too. And in the class, sneaking a little ice flower and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Because that's always been at the heart of the X-Men. That they're called powers, but in the comics, like, for gifted youngsters, they're gifts, and it's about how, if we have to fight, we're going to use them, but it's all about living with them and little inventive things. It's those human moments that make these mutants, so wonderful.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. So, who's got any projects coming up on anybody's docket that they're allowed to share with us?
I just filmed all of last year, practically in Amsterdam, where I was born, on a Netflix series called Amsterdam Empire. And this is the first time I am acting in my own language. And it's coming out on October 24th. We just got the launch date on Netflix International, so you can watch it anywhere. But that was very fun to do. Something different, because even though I grew up there, I left when I was 18, and I was modeling at the time when I left, and it wasn't until I started coming to the States that I started acting. So acting in my own language all of a sudden became like acting in a foreign language. So it was a really odd phenomenon. I was recording my own dialogue in the beginning and listening back going, does this Dutch to you? I don't know. Maybe I need to tweak that bit a little bit. So it was very exciting. So I'm looking forward to the release of that.
I have just finished shooting the 7th season of an ABC show called The Rookie, starring someone that this room is probably familiar with, Nathan Fillion. The great Nathan Fillion. And then I also have a feature film coming out April 18th called It Feeds with an actor named Ashley Greene, who I've worked with a couple times. And it's a really scary horror film. And it comes out April 18th, so.
I don't know how this happened, but I partnered up with Top Dog, Kendrick Lamar's manager, TDE, that's right, and a writer-director named Dallas Jackson. We set up a movie at Fox, which is like, I can't tell you what it's about, but it's like horror, action, badass movie called The Zone. We just announced it. And then I did a voiceover for a little game that's coming out called Metal Gear Delta. You're gonna love it. It's a fly by the seat of your pants sort of production.
And tomorrow we'll be back in here talking about Metal Gear.
Yes, that's right.
Tomorrow at noon, that'll be that analysis. Well, one final question. Would you all like to take a picture with this wonderful audience?
Yes.
Alrighty, everybody, you know the drill. Come on up towards the stage, not on the stage, but towards the stage. I want to take a picture of this amazing cast and all of you.